This is part 1 of the Athol 644.5 Swivel Jaw, Swivel Base Vise Rebuild Series. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, check out my YouTube channel. In this video, we will briefly go over Athol and then disassemble the vise. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff and welcome to my shop. We got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. So these are some still images of the vise, pretty much taken the day it was picked up and delivered to me. I shot an entire video sequence, 360 degrees of the vise, but I have no idea where that footage went. So, great start for the series. So here we are with the vise, and we're going to remove the dynamic jaw by spinning it out. And just to talk a little bit about this vise while this is happening. So this vise has 4.5-inch jaws, and it opens up to 6 5/16 of an inch. It weighs about 81 pounds. It is a swivel jaw and a swivel base vise. And what the swivel jaw means is you can see on the top on the static jaw, there's a pin there. And that pin can be removed and that entire back jaw can swing. And that allows you to put irregular shaped items inside the vise. And I'll demonstrate that once we get it all disassembled and rebuilt and everything in probably the last video. But they're pretty unique, pretty cool vices. Athol itself has got a very robust history. And this vise was actually from the 1930s. And they don't put dates on their vices, unlike Reed and a couple of other companies, Wilton. So we have to determine the age of the vise based on the vise model, some catalogs, some of the unique design features in the vise. For example, the swivel base is round instead of rectangular, and the bases for these vises were rounded like this one prior to World War II. So that helps us get closer. And here I'm just removing a ton of this grease that's in here. And this is some very sticky grease. I mean, I don't know what kind or brand it was, but this stuff was a mess. So the way that the main screw is being held inside the dynamic jaw is there is a cotter pin, and that cotter pin has to be removed, and then you can pull the main screw out, and then there is a spring with two steel washers or shims, one on each end of the spring, and that applies some pressure so that the screw is not sloppy. It takes up some of that slop, and it helps to make it rotate easier when you're opening and closing the vise. So we're going to continue to remove some of that grease here. And while I'm working on all of that, we'll go over a little bit of Athol's history. So Athol was founded in 1868 as the Athol Machine Company, and it was generally producing meat cutting devices that were invented by Leroy Sterrett. And Leroy Sterrett is one of the chief designers for the company, and that name should ring a bell if you know anything about machining or vices. So in 1881, Leroy Sterrett was pushed or left the Athol Machine Company and started L.S. Sterrett Company, which they make world famous measuring devices and machining equipment and accessories, as well as vices. And in 1905, after a very intense lawsuit between Sterrett and Athol, he acquired Athol Machine Company. So vices made prior to 1920 would have Athol Machine Company on them, and in 1920 the name was changed to the Athol Machine and Foundry Company, which this vise is got the Athol M&F Company logo on the side, and that's what that stands for. And then this company ceased operations in 1963. Okay, getting back to the disassembly, we got the lead screw out. We've got one of the washer slash shims out, and now we're just going to push the spring and the other washer and shim towards the back using the lead screw. And that spring wants to get caught up on the threads of the screw. So we're going to kind of pull the screw back out and push the spring towards the back. And there we go. Now we'll be able to get that spring and shim out of there. There's the shim. And there's the spring. So that's everything that's on the dynamic jaw. Here we are with the static jaw. And we're going to give it a go on trying to remove this pin. So I reached out to some guys over on Garage Journal Forum and tried to get some guidance here. Apparently, some of these pins are threaded and some of them are just a taper pin. And we don't know which it is for this vise. So in any case, this vise has not had that swivel jaw activated in decades, if ever. So everything is really, really tight right now and really rusted. There's also the possibility that the original owner of this vise may have welded. I've seen that done where they've welded the swivel jaw so that it won't swivel. So, yeah. But we're just kind of playing around with it right now, trying to get that pin out, see if we can get it moving at all. And at this point, when I was working on it, I didn't know that those pins could be threaded. So all the other vices that I've ever worked on or seen, the pin just drops straight in and it's a taper pin. So I'm just trying to get in there and see if I can see any type of welding that was done. And then we're applying some heat to it and seeing if this is going to have an effect on being able to break that pin free. And shocker, this sucker isn't even budging. And then I just hit my hand. That was awesome. So we're going to leave the pin and the swivel jaw alone for now. We're just going to try to remove the lock handle for the swivel base. And it is on there really tight as well. So what I want to do is I want to kind of tighten it down a little bit and then back it in the other direction to loosen it. And I'm getting it to move, as you can see. So that's good. That'll help break those threads free. Sorry about my arm in the way there, but we got it broken free and now we're able to remove it. If you hear weird background noise, it's my neighbor cutting his grass. So there is a really big screw on the bottom. And that slot on the screw is about 3/16 of an inch wide and about the same in depth. In the past, I've been able to get like a screwdriver in there and kind of tap the screwdriver around and get it out of there, but we're going to mess with it in a minute. This is the lock for the swivel base, and we're just going to push that out now since we removed the handle. There you go. So I'm guessing that that screw has not been removed in forever. And this is a kind of a pry bar, cheater bar. I don't even know where I got it. I think somebody gave it to me with a bunch of scrap metal or something. Not sure what it actually was before, but that's what I use it for. And we actually got some movement with this screw doing this, but we definitely weren't getting it out with this. And we were really starting to mar up that, you can see there, that slot that's in it. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and drive the pin that holds the main nut out. There it goes. And there's the pin, caked with grease. So now we should be able to get that nut out of there. So we're just going to tap it from the front opening towards the back. It comes out without too many issues. And of course it's coated in grease as well. You can see that grease I'm just pulling out of there's clumps. But that's the main nut. So I went ahead and purchased one of these. These are called drag link sockets. And I've actually got a full set of them now, but at the time I didn't have any, so I purchased that one off of Amazon. And that is what's going to help us to get this main screw or the base screw out. And this screw was definitely binding up. Once I got it out, I noticed that the first, probably the first and second, maybe even the third thread on it are kind of boogered at the end. So we're going to have to clean that up, and I definitely don't have a tap or a die for that size, so that means that we're going to be cleaning that up with a file at some point. Which also alludes to the fact that, yes, I did get this out of here at some point. But it took literally about an hour. But without that that drag socket, I'm telling you right now, I would have had no way of getting it out of there otherwise. So there are probably some spanner wrenches out there that have flats on them, or the little round pins are small enough to fit into that slot. But Yeah. And so as we worked on this, I cleaned that slot up a little better. I've got the screw out enough that it's projecting above the edges of the base, so I can hit it with that file. And the hole for that screw goes all the way into the base, and that's what I was shooting some of that PB blaster in there to see if that'll help. So as you can imagine, degreasing this thing is going to be a chore in itself. It's partially why we lost some of that footage, because I shot a bunch of this stuff over a period of about 2 weeks, and that literally was probably about a month ago. So I don't know what happened to that initial footage, but no big deal. Not the end of the world. So what's happening is the edges of that slot are kind of getting rounded, and that drag link socket keeps falling or coming out of there. So I'm going to clamp the vise down now. And I've got some wood blocks kind of screwed to my workbench that are holding it in place, because it's going to need some force here. So I've opened that slot up to about 1/4 of an inch, and it just can't be helped. I mean, this is what I've ended up having to do, but it'll make it easier for assembly and disassembly later on. And there we go. Yeah, crazy. So the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to pull that base off of there. And that's as far as we're going to take it down for now. We're going to soak this sucker in the next video, and then hopefully we can get that swivel jaw working. That's going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you got any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. And as always, I appreciate the support, and I will see you next time.